But now we have some rosters developing. We have T1, we have Sentinels, we have Gen.G. So we're starting to see the foundations, Tyler, of these teams building and early adopters of all of these players. So when you look at some of these more complete rosters, how do they compare to you?
It's really difficult because there's only one real complete roster, and that's Gen.G. I mean, T1 has 3 players. They have Crashies, they have AZK, and they have Brax, but then they have, 2 more spots open, which they are, trialing and looking through players and a lot of discussions. And then Sentinels, they have 4 players, and they had, 4 of the 5 play in the T1 Invitational. But obviously, Dizzy was the fill-in there. We don't know where Dizzy's going to go. Seems like Dizzy's going to go pro in Valorant, but we don't know if he'll go to Sentinels. Maybe he'll go to Gen.G with Asu. Who really knows where he's going to go? But again, so the only team.
Can I interject and just ask, are you surprised that Dizzy wants to go pro in Valorant just because of how difficult it was for him to be a pro in Apex Legends?
A bit, but I also think because of the open nature of Valorant right now, I don't think there's no real league, right? It's not like he's signing up to go into a league format where his next 6 months to a year are now confirmed, right? If he joins a Valorant team for Energy or Sentinel, sure, he's signing a contract, but there's no official league. There's going to be a lot of third-party tournaments, so I think he has a lot more time to relax. I also think that if he joins a team, he won't be the sole focus. Apex Legends, a 3-man group, so you have a 3-man team. He was, the poster boy of Apex. If he joins a team like Sentinels, Sinatra is going to be the poster boy. Sinatra is the player that people are going to talk about, or Shazam. Or if he joins Energy, he has Asu. He's not going to be, that he's not going to have all the attention onto himself. So I think the third party nature of how at least the first year of Valorant's competitive scene is going to be like would make it a more, digestible format to go pro, and then Apex that has, the official league and he has more attention on.
The idea of which organizations are taking the best approach to signing players, right? In your opinion, based on what you've seen, who is taking the best approach right now?
So I mean, like, obviously this is a very small results-based analysis, but I know Tyler has a really good article about Gen.G's approach to the team that they ended up going with. And I'll admit that since I'm not a huge CS person, I did not know any of these players prior to seeing them in the T1 Invitational. So I can't even gauge on like how big they are in terms of, maybe like Jacob can chime in on that. But I think the big thing is that, like, I still believe, like, for the esports scene right now, I still believe that what it's looking like teams are kind of pivoting towards after these few major big signings that we saw, the Braxes, the Sinatras, stuff like that, is that we're seeing people kind of starting to slow down a bit and take a look at the scene overall. I'm still a firm believer, and I know, like, I've repeated this several times now, like, I'm still a firm believer that the best Valorant players are going to probably come from the game itself. And by that, I don't mean that they never will have played CSGO before, but they probably won't have been like amazing, CSGO pros that are making the swap. I think it's actually going to be very few people making the swap who are going to stick around at like a really high level in Valorant, and you're going to see a natural flow upward of talent from the ladder as more and more people play the game, and it actually goes through like its actual release later on this year. That's where I'm going to see a lot of the talent coming from. So I think right now, like, I thought Gen.G's approach was really, really good in terms of how they went about signing the team that they did have, and they performed really well in the T1 Invitational. I think there are certain players out there that are definitely still going to get picked up. I know, like, there's a Kiko discussion to come later on in the show. Like, he's probably my favorite player who hasn't been picked up right now. But yeah, I mean, I think if you had to take a look at like what team did the best scouting, it probably has to be Gen.G. However, to Tyler's point, like, we don't have any other complete rosters yet. Like, this is in an incredible infancy, and it's only because now there's an expectation that everyone's going to be talking about it as an esport from the get-go that we're even really talking about how rosters are coming together at all. And to reiterate, I still think that within a year, the scene is going to transform significantly, and you're going to have a lot of native talent coming up off the competitive ladder itself.
Yeah, so I spoke to Sinatra there. Thank you again for joining us. I actually found his team, their team, really interesting. Right, like when we were doing a little bit of reporting around this, Tyler and I and Tyler told me that it was Shazam and Sick that were joining this team. I was a little taken aback because I don't want to discredit some of the players and their achievements that are joining these Valorant teams, but like none of these top guys we see right now in the early parts of Valorant, they aren't top Counter-Strike players, right? Like Hiko and Nothing and Shazam and Sick, they're all very talented players, right? But they are not the Elysias of the world or the Nitros of the world or Device, right? Like some of these other people that like when we've seen them play Valorant on stream and everything else, they are really good, right? Like those are the players that I think if they like transition, those would be the ones that would be getting these massive contracts, and I don't think they will, right? Like I don't see a world where like a top 5 player for a top 5 Counter-Strike makes this transition unless, right, there's some like significant lucrative incentive involved. I do think there are a lot of players that are making this transition. Shazam, Sick, Pith, etc. Right? I saw our chat talking about Pith earlier. And also Skadoodle and Hiko and Brax. Brax is an interesting exception considering the circumstance that he was banned from Counter-Strike for match fixing and didn't really ever get the shot to prove himself, right? Like everybody knew he was mega talented, but he never got the opportunity to show it on a major level on a great team before what happened with iBuyPower happened. So I do think here there will be a lot of big opportunity for some of these players in Counter-Strike who were like either had transitioned to streaming fully or were sort of on their final legs of their competitive Counter-Strike careers.
We're gonna